Lane, you ready?
I am, sir.
All right, 7 a.m. We'll call, or p.m. We'll call to order the March 1st Public Works Public Utilities Committee meeting. Can you call roll call, please?
Mayor Riggle.
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Keller. And Chairman Schaefer.
Here.
Motion to excuse. Ms. Keller?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 2 is approval of the motion summary for the Public Works Public Utilities Commission meeting held January 5th, 2016.
Motion to accept.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Looks like there will be no public comments. There's what,
Just us?
5 of us here? I guess we're public utilities projects and activities.
Thank you. I did email out an update of the current public utilities projects. Be happy to answer any questions you might have of them. Currently we have 4 projects ongoing: Bernard Avenue stormwater improvements, the cooperative boating facility grant, our sanitary sewer system master plan, and aeration system improvements at the wastewater plant. Pretty straightforward in terms of where we're at with them. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding those projects.
I don't have anything on that, do you? But would you mind going over the AMI thing a little bit, just kind of explain? I won't do it today, but just kind of looking at the charts and everything.
Sure. As part of the AMI system that we'll implement in 2016, one of the first things that the Mueller systems had to perform for the city prior to any contract agreements is a propagation study that more or less plans the communication devices, where they'll be located, how many we may need based on their initial estimate from when they submitted the proposal. Also provided details on where the different devices would be located. As a part of this study, where we were able to reduce the number of collectors from 8 to 7, and those collectors are $6,500 each. And those are the units that actually will collect and store the data from the meter interface units that are located on each of the individual homes. And from there, we initially had 28 repeaters. We were able to reduce that number down to 26, and there actually are 2 different type of repeaters. One that runs on the AC power, the electric, and and a set of them that run on DC or batteries. Those range from $500 to $800 a piece. So we were able to reduce the contract amount a little bit, and the draft contracts will be forthcoming hopefully this week, so we can get those out and share those with the city manager's office and the committee if they would like to see those. You can see that the collectors will be located on city-owned facilities, the water tanks, one up at the water treatment plant, one at Station 301, and then one each on the sirens over on Executive Boulevard and at Smith Park. The repeaters are, you can see those are much smaller units, and they'll sit at fire stations, the police stations, at different traffic lights, pump stations, and on some street signs. And the repeaters are actually what will transmit the data from the collectors to the city server and the Mueller system host site on a daily basis, so we can get individual reads on a daily basis. And then let's say if somebody, a resident, were to come in and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and want to see what their reading was at that time, we could actually go out to the nearest repeater and get that information from them. So that's why you have a larger number of repeaters, because those will sit within the collector zone and get that data back to our server site.
So does the reading go from the individual water meter to the repeater?
To the collector.
To the collector.
And to the repeater.
Up to the repeater.
Yeah. And the collector is just, like I said, it has more hardware in it, and it will store the data from the different zones within the city, and then they'll send the information to repeaters that will send, get it back to our host site. So this was, you know, a requirement that was performed by Mueller, and it met all of our requirements. So now we're just tweaking the draft agreement one more time. There'll be a draft agreement, a master agreement, which will be for the capital cost of the project to buy the MOUs and the collectors and the repeaters. Then there'll be a perpetual agreement, which will be our yearly costs. That will be the host, the host site that the data will be collected on. And then they'll actually have a large document called the statement of work that will actually detail how the work is being performed, how the residents will be notified, and all the individual, we'll take individual pictures of each site that the MIUs are installed, so we have that reference and everything. So that will be part of the statement of work. And like I said, hopefully we can get those drafts done this week so we can get those out to everybody. We were just waiting on this study to get that completed.
So when do you anticipate putting the first one up?
Conservatively, I'd say first part of May.
Okay.
Well, that's when the first MIU would go in. Hopefully the collectors and repeaters will go in April. And then we'll actually get to the city has 56 water meter routes now. And what we're going to do, we'll start with 4 or 5 of those routes. And we're going to start with the ones that are all meter pits. And so we don't have to get into anybody's home and do that. We'll just do it where each route has a meter pit. And those are usually in the newer subdivisions where there's already pitted instead of puck still on the side of the house.
Okay.
So in that first map with the blue meters, I'm assuming.
Right. Yep. That's all. That's the meters. Right. That's our service area with all the meter locations. You see all the different neighborhoods.
And then that next one, is that basically how far the signal goes?
Right. You can see and within that red outline, you can see that's where all the collectors are the green arrows and the repeaters are the white arrows.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I like this and that other report. It's really helpful to me to just be able to sit and read that thing. I get more out of it when I read it sometimes. It just doesn't read all.
Yeah. Much more easily to be read.
Yeah, and hopefully we're not trying to create extra work for you.
You're not creating extra work for me because I'd have to get it out anyway. So
Oh,
that
okay.
just made me get it out sooner. So.
All right, good. All right, thanks. Anything else? Bill, Public Works.
All right. 2 each. Okay, a couple of just quick housekeeping items. Again, I provided Kent the Public Works December end-of-year report to you,
Right.
which has a good summary of all the items in Public Works, and I think the intention is to try to provide those to you in advance of every meeting, even on the off months. So if there's issues you have interest in or want to request a more formal report on in the next meeting, we can do that and prepare for that accordingly. Otherwise, you're prepared on all items. You don't have to spend time discussing things that you're already briefed on. On the 28th of this month, before the council meeting, there'll be an open house. There's a flyer coming out at the new Public Works building. So we want to encourage council to come out and just take a look at what we've created there and get whatever amount of tour you want of the facilities.
When's that going to be, Bill?
The 28th, that's your second March meeting, from 5 to 6:30, anytime between 5 and 6:30, staff will be,
You'll have food, right?
and we will have
I'm
food.
just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, steaks cooked to order.
Oh, man.
That's how it was in Germany. Don't tease. We went to the water park. We had steaks there.
Tonight, the only action item on the agenda is an update on or discussion on the downtown refuse issue. There's actually 3 issues that we'd like to bring before the committee at some point. One, I will talk a little bit tonight about downtown business district issues, refuse collection. Also, we are beginning to talk about bulk item collection service for the residential neighborhoods. And I'm in discussion right now with the city manager. He's not prepared to bring that forward at this point to the committee, but we have information on that. And then also the larger item of the overall refuse rate review and discussion. It's been since 2012, last time rates were evaluated and adjusted accordingly. So I've finished the evaluation analysis, starting to work through that again with the city manager, finance director. So on those two items, the bulk item collection and the refuse rate, we're assuming that we'll want to bring that before this committee before we go to full council for some more formal discussion. And I'm sure the city manager will be in contact with you as to timing on that issue. The first issue I did talk about was the downtown business district issues. Councilwoman Keller has brought this up a number of times. I think it's very specifically related to a certain business on South Sandusky Street. So I want to give a little background just of the downtown collection so we understand what we do. Downtown collection, we do allow curbside collection. We also do rear collection. We use tip carts, we do use bags, and we use dumpsters, all variety. They're serviced by both city collection and by private collection in the downtown. We collect on Monday as our refuse route, normal refuse route. We also service Wednesdays and Fridays on the city street cans. Private haulers can service any day of the week. And if we have a business that requires 3 or 5 or 7 day collection, we'll provide that for commercial. Any combination of refuse collection and location for refuse materials downtown. And that's just to provide the highest level of service to our downtown businesses and residents. Like I said, we collect our cans on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but our service is just on Monday. The one exception we made was at the South Sandusky Street address where we were having continued violations. And so we have contacted the owner and discussed if it would be helpful, instead of just Monday, we could do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if your tenants could coordinate with that, we can pick the refuse up accordingly. Well, we're still getting violations. We're getting refuse showing up on Friday nights, on Saturdays. So the issue is difficult to, our current policies aren't managing the issue very well. And in order to change behavior, you have to have a change in our code. I want to explain how our code works right now. Under 521, when we have a violation, and I provided you a couple examples of violations. The one with a large pile was a move out that happened in January. And we got a call in and went out there, investigated, and that was what we found out there on the curb. That's a case where we're able to use our code. We posted a notice of violation. We contacted the property owner and notified them they had to move it. And within the next day, they had removed that trash themselves. The other example, they're actually covered in tarps right now. That's today. We found a violation on North Sandusky where a resident put 2 couches out in the curb, out in the tree lawn. And we went back and they covered them when it started to rain. So I'm only speculating, but it might be one of those situations where they put free on it. They didn't want them to get ruined, but they put free. Yeah. Nevertheless, it becomes a disposal of refuse in the tree lawn. It's a violation. So to address that, tomorrow we'll need to post it, try to contact that property owner, explain they have 48 hours to remove them themselves or hire someone to move them.
Thank you.
Now, the reason I wanted to show you those is because downtown, our repeat offender is just putting out 2 or 3 bags of trash. But because it is downtown, we're generally directed to go and remove them right away. We don't want to see those downtown. So when we do that, we fall outside of our code. So now we can't go and post 48 hours and then follow the code and issue fines or penalty because we're not allowing the code to work. So our code works against us in the situation where we want immediacy to rectify the situation. So in order to address that, I've discussed this with our attorney, with Darren and Tom. I'm proposing that we just try to modify the code that allows us to, in certain circumstances, or in one of these, if it's a repeat offender, we give them a warning when something happens one time, but the next time we're able to go in there and immediately address the issue and fine or file suit, try to figure out whose it is, levy fines against it, plus the costs of collecting. The premise of that whole thing is based on if our police see someone throw trash, say out the window of a car, they can immediately levy a fine. They don't have to give the person 48 hours to pick it up. It's different when people put it on the sidewalk or right away. We go through this 48 hours, but that hurts us in that in order to use our code, we have to leave it there then 40 hours. And downtown, no one wants to leave it there for 48 hours. So our code needs to be adjusted in order to come up with a way to maybe give a little bit of a break, a one-time break to the property owners, but then be able to just, when there is a violation, remove the trash and try to keep it clean. Another suggestion that I've talked with Terry Davenport, our supervisor for refuse, is maybe consider adjusting our pickup day from Monday to maybe Wednesday. So we don't have people, businesses, putting trash out on the weekend
Right.
because they can't get there in time Monday. So if it's Wednesday, they'll be there Tuesday, they can put it out Tuesday night. Wednesday by 10 or 11, we picked it up and it's gone. So we kind of move that pickup day away from the weekend, and maybe we can reduce some of the unaccounted for violations over the weekend since we're not normally working. We don't know if someone puts it out Sunday morning or Saturday night.
Like Solar Saloon, man, goes out Sunday afternoon.
Right. And they are allowed to put it out 24 hours before the pickup time. So if it was Wednesday, they would put it out Tuesday, maybe at 2. And it's not like it's out there on a weekend when there's a high volume of pedestrians trying to enjoy downtown. So adjusting the pickup date downtown would have some benefit. The reason why it is Monday, it's our light day, our lightest day of refuse, so it's easier to pick it up. But I talked to Terry and he said, yes, we can find a way to adjust and maybe make that shift in how we collect downtown. And that would help again with the weekend violations perhaps. But the big issue is going to be the code issue. If our code doesn't change and we continue to violate our own code by saying, pick it up right now, there's no way to go after the property owners and change the behavior. And our feeling is if we can't change the behavior through fines or notice violations, then we're going to have a reoccurrence over and over again.
So Bill, let me ask you a couple things. This place where we keep having a problem, I'm assuming they don't have anything out back they can put the trash in.
They could put a receptacle back there. In the past, there was a receptacle behind there. The reason they got away from it is because everyone else was using the receptacle and there was no way to police it. So they got tired of that issue. That's one of the problems we have in the rear yard receptacles is it's very difficult to police those things. And the second thing is it won't change the behavior necessarily. Yeah, our issue is when people put it out on an off collection day or time, even if they had a receptacle out back, it doesn't mean the tenants are going to walk out the front door all the way up to William Street, west on William Street, and back down the alley to use the trash. That's one of the problems of that building is they don't have rear access from their facility.
I'm sure there's other buildings with the same kind of situation. There may be something in the rear, but getting to it
Yes.
is a problem.
Now we do have quite a few tenants and businesses that don't have access and use the curbside collection. If you're out there early Monday, you'll see the amount of collection. And there's folks that use non-city that pick up other times a week that put their trash out on the curb during the weekday.
Why do businesses use non-city if we're already providing the service?
I know some use the cardboard.
Yeah,
I see that a lot.
What is it?
Like if you have a lot of cardboard.
Oh, okay.
we don't require commercial business to use our services. So if they feel they can get a better deal using a private waste hauler, they are allowed to do that.
That's interesting because we go back to Crest Drive that apartment center
Yes.
that wants to use private and we won't let them.
Right.
It can save thousands of dollars a month
Right.
or a year.
And I'm in
Figure that one out.
I'm in conversation with that gentleman as well.
So I'm assuming we have a different fee standard for businesses and et cetera than like the residential, where we just get our water bill and it's all in there.
Right.
So they have a separate trash hauling fee.
Well, it depends on the nature of the building, but if it's a resident, we'll charge our normal residential fee. For example, this building should be paying $19.73 per month for each unit, each apartment. And that apartment tenant is obligated to call and sign up for service for the city, and they do, and pay their fee. We bill them, and then they need to follow the rules of when we'll pick up trash. So if, let's say we moved it to Wednesday, we'd say you can only put trash out on Wednesday. One of the issues in this particular building is they don't have internals. They have to keep it in their apartment there's no place in hallways or no other place for receptacles within it to stage it until Wednesday, like we have our garages to do that. So they end up just taking the bag down the stairs and dropping it on the sidewalk. And we've trained them that when that happens, we'll pick it up because we don't like to see it out there. But now we can't issue a fine because we're not following policy.
So this particular building, do the tenants pay their own water bill or does,
Yeah, I'm almost positive that they pay their utility bills there. We've talked with the owners of the building. They're a group of attorneys out of Worthington that own the building. And that's the difficulty with a non-city owner. They're not here and present to see the issue.
Right.
So we have talked to them and talked about stepping up the policing of their own facility and monitoring of their tenants. But if they don't have the presence, we don't follow our code to issue notices to say you're going to get a fine now because of this. It's a weak situation. I think the adjustment in the code might be a starting point, maybe adjusting it. What I'd hate to do, we have so many tenants, downtown businesses that do follow the rules. And really, downtown refuse collection works really fairly seamlessly. I'd hate to make sweeping changes because of one violator. I'd rather make point of contact changes in the code. See if that'll allow us to, in a sense, get into their pocketbook and maybe change the behavior.
so will we find the owner or will we find the tenant?
That was my question.
The code allows us to find any number of people, the property owner, the building owner, the tenant. It's up to us.
So do we find them on their water bill?
It talks about how we can find within the code, and there's a process to go through, all the way through finding against the property ultimately. The language, we can provide what we're proposing to change, and the language allows it to actually go against the property ultimately. Our opinion is it's probably better to find the property owner than the tenant, because then the property owner will have to become more responsible for their tenants.
Right.
And they can still pass that fine down if they want to, but it's the person most responsible, which is that property owner, to be responsible for refuse collection. And if their facility isn't set up with easy access to the back and dumpster, then they need to provide something for their tenants or more instruction to their tenants. So it's a way to the property owner more involved. And again, the code allows us to change to find any number of. It says the owner, the person in charge, the tenant or occupant, which is what our current language is.
And how much of a fine are you thinking? $1 million.
Yeah. No, I think it's a 4th degree misdemeanor. I think is what the code said. So I'm not sure what the dollar value of that is. I think it might be like $100 value. Yeah. So that again can be adjusted. That's probably a significant amount if that happens over and over again to get fined that amount of money.
So Bill, this is not related directly to that, but Carolyn brought up, so you said businesses downtown can opt out of our service and,
Yes,
okay, but this place she's talking about can't?
because they're residents. Our code requires all residents,
Okay.
all residential dwellings in the city to pay our
It's resident,
refuse
they're
collection.
apartments. They're not, yeah.
So it's complicated by the fact that they could probably get it cheaper somewhere else.
Well, they can, our residents, the apartments pay on average about 60%, 50%, 55% or so of what we pay residential service. So they're getting a fairly good deal. Apartments now, whether the owners pass that on, I'm assuming they do in their rents. There's a substantial break for residential collection in an apartment community because of the bulk collection through dumpsters. So it's not like residents are paying $19.73 a month if they only live in an apartment. They pay substantially less when you look at the total cost over the number of units per month. So there's some real fairness in there. And when we explain that to some of the people questioning it, they say, "Oh, I didn't realize that." So can somebody always get it cheaper? Sure. There's someone that'll always come in and undercut the price
It's quite a bit.
to get your business. It can be, but what we generally see is non-apples to apples comparisons. I know we're getting a little off topic, but the quotes for the business down in Stratford didn't quote the same number of dumpsters or the same cubic yardage pickup or the number of pickups. Since we've had these complaints, we've gone out and actually measured the percent full of the containers every week for a month. And this one particular place is at 78 to 80% capacity of dumpsters. And the quote that they received doesn't even provide that capacity, which means we're gonna have bags of trash sitting around the dumpsters or on top of the dumpsters on a weekly basis because they're underquoted in what they really need capacity-wise. We tend to monitor the capacity, and we have made adjustments saying you can probably lose 2 dumpsters because you don't need that many, as long as your tenants, maybe walk 100 yards to drop off their refuse. So we try to monitor that. So that issue, that was one of those topics that we'll probably bring up in more detail when we talk about refuse rate and structure, because that has been a discussion in terms of our policy, which requires the residential multifamily be part of the bulk collection dumpster service. So I guess in summary on downtown, my recommendation is continue to work with Darren and develop some language and bring it back either to committee or directly to council and consider adopting those changes to see if it has, to give us at least a tool to try to address it appropriately and give us some time to work with the property. We want to work with property owners because we want downtown to be vibrant. We don't want to be known as the people, all we do is levy fines against people, but we don't have a tool to be really surgical and precise on this one issue because of our desire just to pick trash up.
So we do a graduated fine, first time's 25, second time's 50.
I'll have to talk with Dave, see how that could work.
And then I would stay away from Tuesday pickup only because there's still a lot of businesses that are closed on Mondays. So I don't want to see it go out on Saturday or Sunday for Tuesday pickup.
No, we'd probably we want to do Monday, Wednesday, or Friday because those are our normal
Right.
street can routes. So
Say
we'd probably,
Wednesday.
we try to avoid Fridays because
Yeah.
of all the other issues. So Wednesday's the day
Yeah, okay.
that we could consider changing.
You had mentioned Tuesday earlier, and if they're closed Monday.
Yeah.
Then they're gonna put it on Saturday or Sunday,
Right.
so. Okay.
And that just might make a difference in general downtown, not having the Monday pickup, having Wednesday instead. There are folks that, businesses, they may be open Saturday but not come back till Monday. They don't want to come in Sunday just to put their trash out. So they put it out Saturday, now we got to walk around it for another whole day.
Okay.
So would you want us to bring language back to this meeting, or if we're going to consider extending our to quarterly meetings in this committee, would you want us to bring it back to full council? Until, that's up to,
So when's our next meeting?
That's what we're deciding if we need to do this every other month, quarterly, as needed.
Yeah, we moved it up, I think, when I first got on this committee a couple of years ago, because it wasn't enough. But now we're through a lot of that stuff.
there's 2 approaches. One, we could keep it every other month but cancel if we just don't think there's enough agenda there to have a full meeting. 2 is we could go back to quarterly and either have a special meeting if there's something very significant, or we can bring that topic through email to the committee members. The committee members can elect just to say, let's just bring that to council directly. It's significant.
I think that approach makes more sense. If we make it quarterly, if something comes up, we really need to deal with it. We can
Right.
grab a meeting.
For example, this issue we just discussed, I have no problem preparing that and bringing that to full council tonight. I could even ask if you want a recommendation that we just advance that issue to council, the discussion of rates. Then I could write the report that
How much are
way.
you thinking on rates?
Well, in terms of, not rates, I meant the revising the code.
Oh, okay.
The rates is a issue that hopefully when we schedule our next meeting, we'll be prepared to have a more significant discussion on rates. I can tell you this much from my work over the past year going through all this, not a significant increase.
What are water rates going back up?
That what Tom and Dean were talking about? We haven't finalized anything yet with water rates.
But I
We're
heard,
looking at it.
yeah, I just, I don't know, everything's gonna go at the same time.
I mean, that's something that Tom and Dean Dean needs to see where we're at. But I think eventually, if it's not in 16, it'll be in 17 for sure.
I believe there's been some discussion in terms of looking at our rates of utilities, all of our programs, and bringing those forward.
Even, I think, and Bill, he did a community or a survey, and we're even looking at the monthly stormwater fee, possibly that going up to maybe 50 cents or something. because we're in the lower tier of Central Ohio communities with our stormwater facility.
Well, I mean, I think that's definitely needs to come to the committee before it goes.
Yes, okay,
That's someone.
I agree. How about the language change for downtown, for violations in general? You want that to come back to committee first, or?
You can email it to us,
Yeah, let's do that.
and then we
Okay.
can do it through email, and then it can go to council.
Then at least I'll want us to put into that. Just guess.
Okay,
That makes sense.
that's all I have on the refuse.
Okay. Anything else in the way of staff?
The only other comment I had is the discussion over your desire for meeting content and meeting frequency.
We go quarterly.
I would say quarterly.
So would that be March, December being the last one and March being the first one of the year? Or do you want January to be the first one of the year and April be the next one? We're kind of off
I'd
right
say
now.
just quarterly starting now, so if we're in March,
Okay.
I'd say
March be the first.
next one.
Yep.
And if we need to get together for something else, we certainly will.
Now, if we go to June, then we're gonna go,
August, September, November, December.
no, we don't want one in December. We had enough meetings with budget. So we don't want to meet in December, so somehow we're gonna figure out to do it
I can-
earlier that quarter.
I can forward it on to Tom, and Michelle can work on a potential schedule
That'll work.
and see when we want
That'll work.
to. So we won't necessarily guarantee the next meeting will be 3 months from now.
Right.
We're trying to get back on a schedule.
Oh,
But we don't need to do one in April.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when we did a quarterly before with January and April. It wasn't. It was the first month of every quarter.
If we did offset by a month, so.
We've already had two this year, so this could be the April meeting, right?
It could.
I don't care.
whatever they work out, fine.
Yeah, because there's a lot of other meetings we've got to coordinate around as well.
Right.
Right.
But no, no January or no December meeting.
I would stay away from the summer, just
That makes
because
sense.
there's so many other ones.
Yeah. That makes sense. Any other comments? I don't have any other comments. Nobody else has anything?
Nope.
Adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And we adjourn at 7:33.